All right, being that it's 3:45, we'll go ahead and call the July 16th meeting of the Historical Preservation of the City of Lynchburg to order. First item that we need to tackle on the agenda is now on the agenda, the election of officers. Does anyone have a nomination for holding the title of chair for the 2018-2019 session? It's number one, the election of officers. So we just need a nomination for who should be the chairman.
How about Chris McSwain? I nominate Chris McSwain.
I second.
I guess, is there any discussion? Do you have any issue? I will accept that nomination gracefully. Thank you all. I guess that we need to vote on it as well. We'll go ahead. All those in favor of Chris McSwain continuing the chair position for the 2018-2019 session?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, it so passes. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Let's see, would anyone like to make a nomination for vice chair for the 2018-19 session?
Who was it?
It was James, who is no longer on the commission.
I'll nominate Mark Little.
I would second that wholeheartedly. Any further discussion or call for a vote? Are you willing, sir?
I am.
We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, we welcome you to that position as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's see, the city, of course, will continue to handle secretarial duties as mandated by the Planning Commission, I guess it is?
It's in
or-
your bylaws, actually.
It's in the
Community
bylaws.
development will appoint
Community
a secretary.
development,
So,
Excellent.
unless you guys would like to start doing all the administrative duties.
Anybody want to take notes?
No.
No, Robin does a fine job of that, and Ann, of course, as well. So, okay, well, thank you.
Do you guys officially appoint people to your applications committee?
I don't know that we have in the past, but
Okay.
it's typically newest members rotate on. So Emmett
Okay.
would join the far side of the table here as the newest member of the applications committee.
Okay.
Upon
And
the
will
next
somebody
meeting.
be rotating off?
Probably, who's Shandra?
It's either yourself or Shanda.
Shandra. Probably should
Yeah.
stay on it still.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, we can move along to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the consent agenda from the June 18 meeting. We have a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the consent agenda is approved. And let's see, also having a look at today's agenda, there is a list of new owners for historic properties in the month of May listed there as well for your review. And with that being said, we can go ahead and launch into new business. So the first action item that we have is regarding 1014 Harrison Street. And if a representative from the property or project could please approach the table here, state your name and address, and please tell us about the work in the COA.
My name's Bill Watson. I live at 1014 Harrison. And with my application, I had some slides or some pictures of the property. Yeah. Could you go back to the previous one? Yeah. Those are the two chimneys that I want to cap, and they're in the back of the property. Now go to the next one. Can you see the chimney? This is from the street. It's way back there in the tippy corner. And I have a slide for the other one. Yeah, right there. Right. On the other side of the house. Yeah. Oh, there. That's it. So that's what we're dealing with. And did I send you a picture of the cap itself? Yeah.
Are those the ones you're using?
Yes.
Great. Applications Committee?
They seem to meet the guidelines. I move it be approved as submitted.
Second.
Hearing a second, we call for any further discussion? None? None heard? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. You are free to commence.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Next item on the agenda is 1301 Rivermont Avenue. If there's a representative, please approach the table, state your name and address, and the nature of the COA.
Okay. Steve Timmons, 43 North Princeton Circle. The nature of the application is to update that sign and one other sign, the advertising sign, yeah, that one. Gospel Community Church merged with Rivermont Avenue Baptist Church about a year ago. There was from a legal standpoint, it was a transfer of assets from RABC to GCC. Now we are GCCR, and now that we're in the building, we figure it's about time we put the right name out front. So that's what we're asking to do. In addition, if you go back a couple of that one, that's our main entrance. That's where the office entrance is. And one of the reasons we wanted to put the address up there and to set this off a little bit with the different color was to help people find this. It's difficult when you have 16 doors on a lot shaped like an arrowhead. You know, east and west don't work very well.
Are those signs right there existing
The two on the sides of the door are, yes.
in that same configuration and color?
They're,
Okay.
they're a different color. I think the motif now is kind of an off-white and maroon, and we wanted to change it to a dark gray, which matches. Hold that picture there. See where the stop sign is? Just coming up out of the bushes to the right of the stop sign is one, well, and you can see them up Rivermont Avenue too. One of a number of electric light posts that are that dark gray too, so we're going to plan off of that. You know, our slate roof is gray, so we think it would be helpful to say people, you know, on the Rivermont Avenue side, look for the dark gray trim doors coming there. The doors are wood and stained glass, so we don't want to paint them. We like the wood.
Okay. Applications Committee?
Okay, if you could go back to the original one that's there now. You're replacing this one, same size, same posts.
Yeah, probably new posts. There's some rot there. I don't know how old it is.
All right, if you look at the first one, you can see that this one, the colors are not that one, the one you had, that one. Correct. Thank you. This one, the colors are coordinated more with the building. You can see the posts have that creamy color of the windows. The red trim has the red, you know, you could pick up on the brick with that, and then the green is just coordinating with the red. So as far as meeting the guidelines for the sign itself, the size, I don't have a problem with. Go to the next one. It's the colors.
Yeah,
You get this gray with the tan trim, the white stark sign with the black printing. It's just not as attractive as the other one.
Well, part of the challenge is this is a made-up thing.
You mean a computerized?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Well, that was
completely
my question. Is this just computerized, or is this
Yeah.
going to actually be the color?
No, we want to use the same color of off-white that matches the concrete around the windows.
And what color are the posts going to be?
I thought we were looking for something darker gray. Did I not send you something with darker gray posts?
So you're saying that this white will be, the background will not be as white as
Correct.
as
There
you
is one
showed.
that shows the darker
It'll be
gray.
more creamy.
Yeah, that's the color of the post. I apologize if that color didn't get transferred over to the other one, because that's the one where you can see the light post kind of behind that sign. It matches that.
Okay,
That
so,
does.
so the posts are going to be more this color?
Yes,
More of a deep gray, darker gray?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a lot better than that first
Oh,
one.
yeah,
Less
that light
institutional.
gray is just.
Maybe I missed that, I was trying to find it.
No.
I was kind of going through the, all right,
That's why we have these meetings.
okay. I think with that in mind, it seems to meet the guidelines, and I move that it be approved as submitted.
I second.
Any further discussion? Other than ensuring that we're talking about the dark gray and not that version right there.
So there are 3 different signs, so is that a motion for all of the signage?
Well, I think all the signs will be in that same
In the exact
color,
same color
It'd be
scheme.
the same color scheme. with
Okay.
the-
with the darker grays.
Yellow and the darker gray.
And the creamier background.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
So
a
this-
blow-up of the handicap sign. Yeah, that one. Now, that's a picture of the existing sign, and we've just masked over top all the maroon with gray. So that background is the color.
Dark gray, dark gray.
Okay, and that coordinates with the brick and the mortar and all, so that's perfectly fine.
Okay. All right, we have no further discussion, but all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? You are free to sign away. That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see, moving on to our next item, we have 2021 Rivermont Avenue. I'm sorry, I take that back. 1018 Rivermont Avenue. If there is a representative, please approach the table and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mac Johnson. And this property is 1018 Rivermont Avenue. And I'm here to request having the name of the church put on the church because very few people know this is a church. A lot of times we invite people to church. Well, I didn't know it was a church. And so we have the specimens, exactly what it would take to put that name on the church. But if the Historical Society is not in agreement with what we have, we're requesting that you give us your design and how you want it, and we'll go by whatever you say. We just want the name on the church.
Understood. Excellent. Applications Committee?
Okay, on this one, if I remember, I should have put this up, I apologize, but if I remember correctly, these letters were plastic.
Polycarbonate.
Polycarbonate.
Oh,
Would you
okay. And the
you
sheet
enlarge
that's,
that
the
for
sheet
them,
that's,
please?
the sheet that's mounted on the brick wall, is that clear? Because all I see are the letters.
Letters mounted to clear polycarbonate sheet mounted to brick wall.
Okay. All right. I'm going to basically just read the guidelines. Signs should be appropriate for historic buildings in their design and placement, as well as meeting the city's sign ordinance. Signs typically should be of traditional materials, such as wood, glass, or metal. Sandblasted wood signs are appropriate. Plastic substrate signs, plywood signs, or unfinished wood are not recommended, which is what you're, I believe, asking for. Composite materials may be considered laminated aluminum over hard rubber cord, depending on use and placement. But basically, you're asking for plastic, and so there's two, and should be size and proportion to the building. And basically, there's two issues with this. Number one, can you yeah.
Zoom out.
It's that particular facade, not the whole building, but that small one where you have the big arched window, the three above it, and the two little arched ones
Yeah.
next to it. That sort of acts as its own facade, and it's very symmetrical. You're taking the whole balance of that symmetry away when you put this sign on that above that second window. So that would tell me that it is not appropriate on that building. And to be honest with you, I see no place on that building where any sign would be appropriate. Now, with that said, I think if you have an area of grass there, I think the confusion with your building is that if you're coming up Rivermont from downtown, now I went there today, and there's clearly a sign you have on Rivermont Ave. I think the confusion is that sign is closer to the funeral parlor, and then the funeral parlor sign, which is where everybody parks, is closer to the church.
That's right.
And I understand the need maybe for you to clarify that that's the church, but I think if you did something similar to what you just saw prior to your proposal, is putting a sign in front of your church as opposed to on the building itself, especially where you wanted it, because I noticed that there's already a crack going up the brick, which means that there's already some issue, and I think by you drilling into that portion of the building may exacerbate that problem a little bit more. And as you can see the close-up of that, you can see where it's already
Yeah.
has a crack going up there. So I really wouldn't mess with that facade too much, but I think you've got plenty of lawn space where you could put a sign up in front of that building, and maybe an advocate could go up there with you and try to help you out as to location and size and all that sort of thing, because there's also we have guidelines for the different size letters, the whole shebang. So with that in mind, I move that it be denied as requested, and that you could work with an advocate for an appropriate location and size of a sign in front of the building. Would that,
We're actually we need to get away from just saying, an advocate's going to work with them. It's the commission that needs to approve an application or deny an application. We
okay.
can't
I
have an
move that
individual
it be
go out
denied
there.
as submitted.
So you can't, is it possible that you could specify what would be approved?
Well, yes.
A freestanding.
A freestanding sign of traditional materials such as wood, glass, or metal. Plastic substrate, hold on. Alternative composite materials may be considered.
What is the material of the sign that exists in front of the cross right there? Is it metal?
That was approved by the Historic Society.
Uh-huh.
You all approved that.
Yeah, it's probably a metal sign. I wonder if that sign could be duplicated.
No, it is not
or
metal.
larger?
It's not metal?
No, it's not metal.
Okay.
What material is it made out of?
Pardon me?
What material?
I forget, but I know it's not metal.
Okay.
Also, I might add that it says sandblasted wood signs are appropriate also.
So
Yeah, so I mean, kind of,
what are the specimens that you will approve for that, for a sign? How large, how small, how tall? Are you going to give me those dimensions also? If you give me all the information, I won't have to come back.
well, let's see what it says here. Should be sized in proportion to the building.
Well, that should be pretty big, shouldn't it?
So there is the zoning ordinance that also has sign regulations. I assume whatever is in the guidelines will be less than what the zoning ordinance would allow.
Should have no more than 2 or 3 colors. Colors should be coordinated with the overall building colors. Should have traditional lettering such as serif, sans serif, or script lettering. Letters should not exceed 18 inches in height and cover more than 60% of the total sign area. And should be located, well, that doesn't apply. It doesn't, I don't think it gives specific sizes, does it?
I don't believe so.
So I think this-
Get a sign closer to the entrance of the
Well,
church?
I wanted it on the building, but as the committee have stated that would not work. So if I'm gonna put a sign up on the lawn, I want it large enough where it can be really seen from the street, you know. But that's why I'm saying, if you all would give me the specifications of what size sign and everything, then I just give it to a McBride sign company and let them go to work.
Right.
Whatever you all suggest.
And the entry to your
If you
lot
give
is
me
on
the
the
information.
left-hand side of that, correct? The entry to the lot is on the left-hand side of this screen, correct? Yes, over here. And then you've got, the thing is, we're trying to direct people up to the front of the church, but you do have that row of trees right up the middle there as well, so any
Oh, I can
sign.
take the trees down.
Well,
Or take one of them
you-
down anyway.
You can do that, or have some sort of low-slung sign that's towards the back of that grassy area, drawing people further up there, but.
I mean, we cannot just arbitrarily tell you what size to put there now. That's,
And who in zoning would give him that size?
That would be Kevin Henry, the zoning administrator.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I need for you all to give me approval of what size or whatever, because if I get the zoning commission, he can put a sign up, saying, well, it has to be approved by you all, right?
Correct.
Right, so this is what I'm
You guys
saying.
need to approve
Well, but
the
it's-
design.
Yeah,
So-
we don't really design anything.
You don't have,
We're not going to design it. You have to come to us with your design. So, I mean,
Why don't, yeah, after this, why don't we talk, and I can actually send you the regulations from the zoning ordinance as well as the guidelines, and I think what the commission would like to see would be a mock-up of what you would want to actually do, since the building sign is not going to
I mean,
work.
just like what you saw previous for the other church. You know, he gave us a mock-up, we had questions on it. We already know the size because the size is already there. So we didn't have to discuss the size, but that's kind of what we're looking for.
And I'm sure Tony McBride has done this enough, he would be able to
Right.
follow those guidelines and
Sure.
provide you
They could
exactly
probably
what
mock it up.
would work and fly through the process as well.
Do you want me to see if Kevin's available? He could just tell you like what size you're allowed to
Okay.
have.
okay,
I don't know if he's available or not, but I could see if he could meet with you and
that'd be
at
fine.
least tell you that much.
That'd be fine. So,
But someone from this committee, I would think, could meet with him as far as the location, an
So you gotta
appropriate
Make a
location.
recommendation on
Because, you know,
that.
you have your ideas of where you'd like it to be seen, and ours are probably different, so we'd have to kind of coordinate that whole thing.
But it needs to be approved by the full commission.
Okay, so it's what you need to, for an advocate.
No, it needs to be approved by the full commission.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it sounds like you probably want to table this and maybe come back once he has more information.
I move that we table this until our next meeting in August
There needs to be a
2018.
second and a vote to table.
We need a second for that?
Yeah, we need a second. Perfect. Having a second, call for a vote that it's tabled until the next meeting where we can review the information in full. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So how do we,
Excellent.
so we need so you're going to give him specific information that he's looking for, and we need someone as an advocate from this committee to kind of look
Right,
at
so
locations?
who's the advocate from this committee?
Look at it and then.
Which is Rivermont.
review for now.
I think I was for that area of
Okay.
Rivermont. So I'll be happy to meet
Okay.
with you. And you can get my information from Ann, and likewise I'll
I'll
get
reach
yours.
back out tomorrow
and
with
your
this
email
information.
information.
Yes.
I believe you
To
have my
the
email.
email on the application.
Yeah.
Yep. And it sounds like Robin's trying to see if Kevin can meet with you now.
Yeah.
But offline from this meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Nice.
Okay. I
Thank
would
you
have
very
voted you
much.
president. You're very intelligent.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, we'll pause for just a brief moment till our secretary comes back in to take notes.
Yeah, it's all being recorded, so it's fine if you want to go ahead.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'm sorry, let me go back to my agenda here. Excellent. Okay, moving on to the next item, then we have 2021 Rivermont Avenue. For representative, please approach the table and state your name and address for the record and the nature of your project.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Brandt. My husband Kevin and I own 2021 Rivermont Avenue.
Yes.
And we received approval to do our requested changes back in February, and we are now downsizing the scope of our project. So our proposal today seeks your approval for changes that we would like to make within the existing envelope. On the west elevation, the original as-built show 3 arched casement windows that were the sleeping porch, but upon further investigation, we've only been able to show ghosts for 2 of them. So we would like to keep the existing 2 arched casements on all 3 sides of this section. And then on the same elevation, on the first floor, we'd like to remove the existing exterior door and the window and install 2 casement windows centered below the arched windows on the second floor. And we were approved to build egress stairs to grade, but have found that the grade is about 2 feet lower than the original drawings. So instead of extending the steps further out into the yard, we would like to wrap them and hold the stairs close to the building. So this is from the next one is the southern elevation, the south elevation. So you'd see that the stairs would wrap to the left as opposed to going out into the yard.
Excellent.
And then,
You can move on to the next slide. You don't want to tackle them one at a time, or just hear it all and then go from there? Or do you want to look at these one at a time or as a whole?
As a whole, I would.
Okay.
so from the south elevation, what we'd like to do on the first floor is remove a window and replace an existing window with a door that would be into the kitchen that would be ours. No, in the middle. That one. That would be our second egress for the main house. The only egress right now we have is the front door. And then for access to the previously approved deck, we had changed an existing window to a French door, which is the one on the right. The door hasn't changed from our last submission, but in the approval notes, it did not identify that this was approved. So we're just bringing it back up for approval this time.
Any other items that were on there?
That's it.
For this time? Perfect.
The application committee, we believe it fits.
And for the record, I recuse myself
It's within the
from
guidelines.
this project.
We recommend approval.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or questions regarding the application as submitted?
Just one quick question. And if you go to, I guess that's south, the big back,
That one.
no, the actual picture of the elevation.
There.
Yeah, there. Is there the center window at the second floor you were talking about? There's no
No, what we
evidence of the original.
We actually have pictures that was in the 40s. The house was divided up into 4 apartments, and we have pictures that show that was the entrance to the top, the apartments on the top 2. So that actually is a door.
In the center.
Right, correct.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I could just see the 2 little marks of the window.
On the
It looked-
windows,
yeah.
and there's nothing there, and we've poked around and we can't
Okay.
find any evidence.
The type.
Very good.
Just
All right.
clarifying in my head.
Sure thing.
Of course.
All right, hearing a first and second call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Ready to go?
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ms. Brandt. Thank you. Next up, we have 2001 Rivermont Avenue. Representative, please approach the table. State your name and address for the record.
For Willoughby Properties.
Casey Service with Architecture Design Office.
Excellent. Welcome back.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Okay, and I think for all of these items, we'll just, again, hear them all and then tackle them one at a time as we
Break
go.
it up and vote.
Do you want to break it up?
Vote on just the house, on the school, on the gym, and on the outbuildings, unless you guys feel
Are they
otherwise.
separated in that order? I guess maybe so.
Yeah, it wasn't-
House,
yeah.
school, gymnasium. Okay, that's fine. If it makes it easier for you to track as
Yeah,
well,
you
Robin.
know.
Okay,
There's a lot going on.
that's fine. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and tackle the house first, which I believe may be 1, 2, 3,
Do you want us
4,
to go
5
through
items?
basically in your agenda order base is what you're saying?
Yes, I think
All right,
so,
let me pull
since
that
that's
up.
what we're referencing.
You know,
The first 5 items, it looks like.
One way to do this,
Oh, you have the agenda here. Perfect.
if you go on the architectural drawings, and you've got, can you go to the first architectural drawing they have? The one that shows the elevations, the first elevation one. Okay. There you go. Where it calls for the general elevation notes, that's more or less what we're discussing.
That is, yes.
So
That is
maybe-
the biggest summary outside of site work. That covers everything on the building
So
property.
that may be a good idea, just to go
Yeah.
through all those, and just, because that covers everything,
Yeah.
both, and that's basically what we're looking at. So you might just go by item 1, 2, 3, 4, just so we can,
Yeah, and I
we'll
have
know
that
where
here
those all
so that
are.
you can, and keep it sort of zoomed out on the overall.
And the site stuff, if you want to do the site independently.
Yeah, let's do that. I think that's great.
And just as, I'd just like to make a note.
Were there
On the
site items?
original application for zoning, I recused myself. I didn't have to, it was just a courtesy because I just started with the Brants next door. But since it's been approved, I can assure that everyone in this committee and the owner that I can certainly be fair and impartial. And just, it's just too important a building for me to recuse myself on, so I am not recusing myself for this project in the future.
You just mentioned there was site work on this. I don't have any site work listed on this current COA that I see.
Well,
anyway.
so
Am I?
I-
Oh, maybe so. I
we-
guess. Pathways.
It's basically, when we were here in February, I believe, we got a conceptual site plan approval
Right.
for the whole rezoning process. We're currently in TRC. There have been some minor shifts. We lost 2 apartments, so the parking lot's a slightly different configuration. It's all generally the same
Okay.
with just minor things. So it's really just looking at it again as but it's 98% the same as what was approved in February.
To give you a full picture.
Sure.
So what I included was what was submitted to TRC that went to TRC.
The site plan.
Yeah, exactly, 2 weeks ago. And of course, this is.
Maybe we should do the site plan first, is that what we're doing? Because it's a minor one.
Yeah, that's the first item that I have on
What
our
has changed
agenda
since
as well.
February? Just some walkways?
I think generally we've done a little bit more grading, and so largely what's changed is from the parking lot to the building entrance and how we are creating our accessible access to the structure, because we have the historic front porch that has steps up. There's the entrance to the school off of Rivermont that has steps up, and then the entrances to the basement of the school are a story down from grade with a large stairway down. So we felt that the best way to access the structure is from the parking lot. It actually works out that while the grade sort of drops from where the parking is to the house, that the finished floor and the parking are fairly close to level. So it's not really a ramp, it's just a raised sidewalk that would be brick faced to match the house as closely as we can with just a concrete sidewalk surface. And right now, Anna has heard some interest from the community with some potential elderly tenants, and so right now we're showing 3 accessible units, one of which was in the historic house. So this added a second accessible entrance to the rear access to the house. You see where it says concrete steps and stoop right there. That existing stairway right now is just a poured-in-place concrete stair that basically spans over an existing light well down into the basement. So this would just be an extension of we'd probably try and do the same thing to a structured slab from where the brick wall sidewalk ends to keep that light well down in the basement, and then brick steps down and the brick walled raised sidewalk to provide us with 2 accessible entrances, one to the rear of the house which accesses the main front hall, and one to the school and gymnasium in that corner where it says T.
And so where is the ramp?
Well, there's really not a ramp because where those curved steps are, right by the handicap spot, you can see there's a terrace that's there now that steps down. So and those were done with the school. So we'd be taking probably part, if not all of those out, and just continuing the terrace at the current level, and with just a minor slope up, but not a full ramp slope. That would get us to the finished floor of the.
Okay.
So
the
it's
school.
essentially the walkway will wrap around. If
Yeah.
you're familiar with the building, I think many of you have been there. So we'll wrap around in the back of the gym, and then that classroom wing that juts out, and then wrap around right into the entrance of the original house, just to give people with mobility issue easier access.
But when you leave when you get out of your car from those handicap spots and get onto the sidewalk and go to the entrance, there's maybe 6 inches of difference. So we're basically raising the sidewalk instead of going down and back up. And that's really the biggest change. Everything else is, I think, the parking's probably moved 6 inches one way or the other. Same with the buffer, but they all are going through the TRC process and meeting those requirements.
Wasn't this original application, wasn't that parking lot skewed?
It was. We did a little.
So did you guys approve this one?
That's the way I remember it being straight on, because I just remember the trash truck would come straight in off the street.
I believe
pick it up and back out.
what you're remembering is we had an architectural site plan that was in process and a civil, and we were sort of mashing them together at the last minute. And this was the what we were basing our
The
decision
final.
on. Yeah.
You were saying you thought it was maybe parallel with that back end of the building?
I just remember it being
Catty-corner.
skewed.
I think it didn't meet all the landscaping buffer requirements that zoning was looking for with that skew, so we had to straighten it up.
So the only thing on this application is what you just talked about. I move that, so we get to approve these independently?
I suppose.
That's what
so.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
Since it's so much, I figured it was easy to break it down this way.
So the site work would be the first item.
I move that it be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor of approving site work as submitted?
Aye.
None opposed? Site work is good.
Great.
Next.
So do you want to go to those elevations? Yeah, and I think we'll go through it with the notes, but I think I'll just go through some of them. Hard time pulling up the notes.
Is it, I think, I read through all these notes, and I think actually the easiest thing to do, it's a little different than what we normally do, is as you read one, we just
Approve each
make
note?
our comments on them, because I had different comments on, and so rather than he go through the whole thing, and then we have to go back through them again, is that acceptable to do that? I think
Fine
it
with
would just save time and expedite this a little bit.
I suppose, I don't know that the lineup does not necessarily match the way their COA was written, though, does it?
It doesn't. We can, if you guys are not going to approve something as submitted, I'll specify that out.
Okay.
For
So I'm not sure it makes a difference.
Well, just for
For
ease,
ease of keeping track, if you
Yeah.
want to go through it that way, that's fine.
guys, because I just had questions on specific ones, and if you're going through them, I can ask the question, and we could clarify it right off the top.
Sounds good.
But let's keep it separate as the house, the school, the gym.
Okay.
Okay?
And so some of these notes will go,
Well,
like note number
but-
1 applies to the whole building.
Well, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Yeah.
If we separate it, it's better to keep it all together because it refers to the whole thing.
Okay, we can do it that way.
Some do and some don't, but yeah, that's, I
Some do
think,
and
I
some don't,
hear
right.
exactly what you're saying. So number 1 is all the existing brick on the structure we're planning on keeping and just repairing and repointing based on the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines and standards.
Yep.
As required. It's generally in pretty good shape. There are some specific areas that need some repointing.
And if you could actually just, when he's reading these, if you could go to that column so that he can just actually read them and we can see
He's
them.
got them.
Sorry,
Yeah, maybe I need to.
so
put
my
them in.
iPad was slow,
Well-
but I think the phone's going to load up a little
Yeah, if you
quicker.
can do that for each one, that's great.
Yeah. Existing brick to remain and be repointed as necessary.
Okay.
It's and the only exception to that we'll get to a little bit later is we are proposing a couple new openings where obviously that brick would be removed. But
In the 1960s edition, there are no changes
Yeah, sorry.
proposed to the original house.
yeah. I am almost there. Here we go. All right, so note 2 is the existing. Note 2 throughout the elevations denotes existing windows, including the frame, stone sill, and stone header to remain in place and be repaired as necessary for continued use. This is generally speaking to the windows, all the windows on the house. So every opening on the house, we're planning on, every window opening on the house, we're planning on keeping the windows and repairing them. They've started doing some lead abatement, and they seem like they're in pretty good shape so far. So that's good news.
Is there a set of specifications
So
that goes with these drawings?
we generally, on our cover sheet of our set, we refer to the Secretary of the Interior standards, and they have preservation briefs that address pretty much all of these, and they say this is how you should go.
And it's sort of not separate from us, but in
Yeah.
terms of your work, as necessary is frequent in the notes.
Yeah.
And I'd be real anxious if your mason is not familiar with those standards and
The-
briefs, and as necessary gives him free rein to do whatever he wants. In your part 3, you could find yourself in a deep hole in your part 3.
We tailor these notes to who we're working with, and we've been working with
Okay. As
these
long as
folks
you're-
for,
okay.
we've done dozens of projects with them.
Okay, cool.
Gotten them all approved. Yes.
And just to add to that, we are using a contractor who specializes in historic preservation.
Yeah, he did the Piedmont Flour Mill.
Okay.
And,
And a number of other buildings.
And other buildings, correct, yeah.
The subcontractor who's doing the windows does historic windows exclusively. And we just went through his methodology for
Yeah.
removing existing paint, sort of a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
We went through materials that he will be using, timing, and all of those good things. So I feel pretty confident that they're going to do a very good job.
Great.
Yeah. So that's generally speaking, or that is the how we're handling the windows on the house. The note 3 is in reference to most of the doors on the house, with 2 exceptions. It's referencing the front door and the rear porch door. And it's referencing there is, and if you can go over to the I guess it's probably on the next sheet. Next one, actually. Oh, that's so weird that it's cutting off like that. The photo would probably help, yeah. There's a door on the front next to the entrance to the school that is clearly historic. Keep going. It's going to be up towards the beginning of the photos. So, yeah, the trees are so mature here. It's hard to get pictures, but basically, right around between those two doors that you see, the door to the school on the side there's a door down in the basement to the light well. So that door, the door down to the light well, and the door on the rear porch, which is further down in the, those are all historic. We're planning on keeping all of
Number
those.
2 and number 3 are the same, except one's for windows,
One's for windows, one's for
and
doors.
they basically refer
Yeah.
to the main
Yeah.
existing house.
Yeah.
Okay? Got it.
Good luck. I don't know if you're going to see it.
No, I
Put it
actually
my-
don't need to discuss things that are remaining the same.
Okay.
Because if it's an
Okay.
in-kind
So-
replacement, they don't need to hear about it.
That's fine. So then
In case he does have a picture of that back door.
Yeah,
Somewhere
so-
in the set, we're just having
Yeah, I
to
mean,
get
it-
into it. There's so many.
It's perfectly
Yeah, so that-
fine.
yeah.
You're not changing it. so
we're not
you don't
changing
need
it. So the only question with these that, and honestly, I noticed it and remembered today, is that front door. When it was a school, they rehung it to swing out. It's got panic hardware on the inside. We haven't talked about it specifically, but I'm thinking we're probably going to want to rehang it back to its historic in
It
swinging.
says that in your.
Yeah, it does. It say that?
Yeah. It does,
It's there's a lot in me.
Yeah, yeah, it does
Um,
state that.
Yeah, so that door we would swing in. So on the back entrance, which is visible from Hawes, there are two doors that were pretty clearly replaced when they did the school addition in the 60s. And our proposal is to replace them because they're... So that little door is actually just a little access door to a coal chute. There's a little brick bump out, and then on the top picture, the light. Well, the door to the left on the rear porch is actually the historic door. We're planning on keeping that. It's sort of back, tucked in that corner, that you can sort of obliquely see it. But we did actually got at the end of last week our response from the Park Service, and they asked for more information on that rear door to the house. So I think we'll probably end up having to address that more specifically with them and maybe apprise you all of the situation that they're looking for.
That door appears, I think, one picture up.
This one.
No, keep-
One more up.
Yeah, that
It's-
blue
it's,
door.
right there. That blue
Right
door
there.
right there, right under the tree. There it is.
Yeah. And it's hard to tell from that, but it's pretty clear that the historic masonry opening was altered at some point to
Are
widen
you
it.
replacing that whole unit with the side lights and everything? I noticed
That is the plan.
And the reason for that?
It's a 60s replacement door that's in. That's just a flat panel door.
So those side lights aren't original or anything?
They're pretty clearly not original. And we're doing so much work right there with that raised sidewalk. I think it makes sense. But we're going to have to come back and address that specific opening with the Park Service. So the porch we're keeping, parapet is all staying the same and just being repaired minimally. The roof, the slate shingle roof is generally in pretty good condition. There's a little bit of an odd condition on this house in that it's I don't know if there's actually a technical term for this. I looked and could not find it, but it's almost like an expanded gable. So if you look at it's actually the best views from down Hawes Street, looking at that rear porch. So you see the 2 points of the gable there. That the zone of the roof in between those 2 points is flat. Yeah, and there's a lot of leaks. It's an old, some sort of metal seamed roof that is just
You're talking
shot.
about the parapet itself? Or is that a?
Behind the parapet, there between those 2 points and below the parapet is flat. And actually, if you go to Google the aerial shot, you can see it pretty well. You can see that sort of flattened zone. So we are proposing to keep or replace in kind the metal flashing that transitions from that flat roof, the visible part, but we are proposing to replace that top flat roof with a membrane to try and nip any more leaks in the butt. But
It's not visible anyway.
it's not visible, and there may be a slightly minor change in the way that flashing, but it's generally speaking will be the same. And then while we're talking about the house roofing, the gutters are in varying states. The flashing is in varying states. Anything that we're replacing will be in kind to match.
I notice on your notes, it says replacing the profile, the historic profile, but it doesn't say material, because it says the existing
Sorry,
is metal.
yes, the material will be the same metal, or as close an approximate metal. It will be metal. We're not going in with.
Just wanted that
yes.
was one of the questions I
Yep.
remember. So I think that's like one of the ones coming up.
Yeah.
And the hidden gutters are all lined with, I think it's either copper or another
Tin.
metal or tin. So those we are going to line with copper.
Yeah. And you can like sort of see them, sort of not at different points. But yeah, they'll all be lined. The rear porch roof, while we're talking about roofs, our plan is to replace that, but it will be a crimped metal seam painted to match that profile as closely as we can. There's a hidden gutter there that will be rebuilt as well. Yeah, that's we just talked about.
I guess
7 and 8.
Would
Seven
you
is
like
what
to
I was.
mention the little roofs?
Oh yeah, so on the front elevation and on the rear there are four total. Where there are various bump outs, bay window, the front porch, and there's an area on the back that are all hidden behind parapets, and those will be hidden from view, but they'll be membrane roof.
Some of them
replace their
are
flat.
already membrane.
And,
One
yeah.
of them is standing seam, the one in front, but we would like to replace everything with membrane.
But it's all hidden. It won't be visible from anywhere. So that covers 7 and 8. Chimneys are staying as they are with minimal repair. They won't be operable, but visibly they'll be the same. I know we're going to have some conversation about number 10, I think.
Well, number 10 is sort of evolving, isn't it?
It's a little bit evolving. But from our research, the way that the DHR and the Park Service look at historic districts is there's a period of significance. The period of significance for this district is from 1890 to 1952. We have the drawings from when the school addition was done in 1964.
Are we talking about these stucco panels?
We're talking about these stucco panels. There's these 3, and there's one more around the corner.
Okay.
So they were definitely there in 1964. Anna has met with the woman who lived in the house prior to the school and lived there into the period of significance. And as far as her memory can take her, this was the configuration. So it takes us into the period of significance.
So DHR was saying that
So DHR
the stucco is significant?
DHR looks at the structure as an evolution. They don't say, okay, this is how it was built in 1908, and that's what we want you to go back to. It was a sleeping porch. It was 100% a sleeping porch historically when it was first built.
So have they given you an answer on that to keep it
Basically, so I emailed Jessica Ugarte, who's our reviewer at the state, and sent her a couple pictures from the interior showing that it was a sleeping porch. She asked for more documentation, and what we would propose. Basically said without any further documentation, they would look for a glass enclosure with minimal intrusion. So they basically want a big pane of glass in those 4 openings if we wanted to open them up. Now, I'm sure there was a railing because those sills in those stucco panels are right about finished floor level. So, but without any documentation of what it was, it's going to be hard from us from their perspective to go back and say, yeah, take out this built fabric that is from that period of significance and go back to something that you're speculating on. If we had as-built drawings of when the house was built, that we could go back to and say, yeah, this is what the porch rail was.
They don't want a false sense of history.
They do not want a false sense
We
of history.
understand.
So the
So-
your preference is to maintain the windows the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with Ann Faber about this, and she looked at some family pictures, and she was born in the house. I won't speculate what year, and they sold the house in 1958. And she claims that during her family's tenure at the house, this was always the configuration. So probably since the 40s at the very least.
So our proposal at this point, without stumbling upon some additional historic material, is to keep this current configuration.
Does that work with the plan?
It works with the plan
Make it
currently,
work.
and it would, we could make it work with the sleeping porch but
Would they allow you, or have you even asked them if there was a, aesthetically, if they said, okay, you need to keep the stucco, if you had another triple window in the other one to kind of balance it, it would look a little better. I don't know if they would even allow that.
I don't think they
I
would
like that
because
idea.
I 100% agree it would look better, but it's, again, goes to their false sense of history. It's not what the configuration was.
Well, you still have the historic stucco there.
It's
and
not.
in answer to that, I probably
Yeah.
can answer it myself. They probably would make you put a different type of.
Exactly. It would be just a
So it
square,
wouldn't be
single
symmetrical
pane,
anyway.
fixed
Exactly.
storefront window type.
They
Yeah.
said if we are going to open that up at all, they will not let us match. It has to be the single pane glass, so which I think is worse
Yeah.
than the stucco.
That would be
So
challenging.
that's what they're saying. One single pane of glass.
I mean,
You wouldn't even be able to get us.
She said
Man.
her email
Contemporary.
said very minimal glass structure with very in all caps.
Wow.
So
right.
That's a huge, that's a size.
yeah, and
That's
that
a size
honestly
of
would
home.
not work with our plan.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of the neighbors would really want that either.
All right.
So that's number 10.
11.
Number 11, wood porch. That's that rear porch, keeping it as is, just repairing and repainting. The basement level largely has, most of the windows have some sort of security grate or fencing that we'd like to remove to get more light in there. There are some mechanical vents from windows. This is one spot where DHR will let us go and rebuild the windows to match because they clearly were
And
historic.
This is strictly
so.
on the historic.
Strictly on the historic house, strictly on the basement level, pretty much around the perimeter of the building. There are light wells down to the basement level. So that basically covers the house, I believe. There might be a stray note that relates. But that covers windows, doors, porches, roofs, brick. Yeah, you can see right there some of those mechanical vents down at the bottom. That was the boiler room when the school was there.
So maybe at this point, we should maybe open discussion, since that's the end of that building, correct?
Yeah.
If there's any discussion on that building, that way we can move on to the other two.
Correct. Any discussion on the historic house part?
Kind of covered it all.
Okay, moving along.
So you guys going to vote at the very end then?
Can we vote on it separately? Well, yeah.
I was going to issue 4 different COAs. Just
Oh, you have a different one for the existing?
that's how I was going to do it. But if you guys want to vote on it all at once, I'll issue one
Well, why don't
COA.
we do that? just in case there's some
Voted
evaluation.
separately on the site.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we need to backtrack to the
We did
site
vote
then.
separately on the site.
Okay.
So
Did we already vote? We-
Did.
Oh, we actually did, okay.
You approved it.
It is? My second time around. Okay, we'll go ahead and make your motion then.
I move that it be approved as submitted, items 1 through
1 through 12 on architectural sheet
Yeah.
A301.
12 for the
And what
historic,
about 13, 14?
That, we're going to go through those. Those are
Got
the
it.
school and gym
Okay.
notes.
items 1 through 12 for the historic building, historic house
Yeah.
only.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. We're good on the house.
All right.
Moving on to number 13.
All right, so this is the front entrance in relation to the front entrance to the school. And just to sort of frame the discussion from this point forward, the school and gym, I guess, and you mentioned the outbuilding, which is fairly minor, and that is historic too, and sort of concurrent with the house at the very back. But the school and gym were both built in the early to mid 60s, which is outside of the period of significance for the state and National Historic District, and therefore their purview over it is less. We had to submit what we were proposing, which is what you see here.
So they still give you tax credits for this, even though
Yeah,
it's...
because it's attached to the historic house. If there was a 6-inch gap between the two, we wouldn't get them. But because it's directly attached, it's an addition.
Interesting.
It's squeezed between the old house and the carriage house that you see on the end of the gym there.
That's
So
right.
it's
Yeah. So
both houses,
yeah,
right?
It's attached to two buildings.
yes, it took two buildings and turned them
Yeah,
into
it's
one
just a
big one.
fill-in.
Yeah, but yeah, so it is eligible for the credits, but their requirements for the work we do are different.
The standard of review for the addition is compatibility. It's not
Yeah.
retain, maintain, repair. It's you can replace fairly freely as long as it's generally compatible. And that's an interesting standard, because how do you make that 1960s edition compatible with the
Yeah, it's sort of
the
to a
Tudor
degree is
revival
yeah,
house? But
yeah.
basically, it's sort of keeping things the way they are.
So that being said, and then just with a little bit of the an overview of that, amazingly, the house that was built over 100 years ago, in many ways, is in better shape on the exterior than the school that was built in the 60s. The windows, they're both wood single pane. The windows on the school and gym are in a lot rougher shape. And the doors are mediocre at best. They're sort of just there. So our approach to the school and the gym was to be able to start fresh on the windows, but to basically replace in kind, so that we're keeping all the patterning the same. The profiles will be slightly different because they're windows that are built today, and they're not. This is not like the windows on the school and gym are a historic profile. But they'll be fairly close. The operability is proposed to be the same.
Are they're going to be still in the same rough openings?
Yeah, same rough opening,
Same.
except for the new windows that we're proposing,
Yeah.
which we can get to. But yes, they're going to be the same rough openings. So number 13 is this first floor entrance to sort of the double doors in the middle there and either side. Those windows are, it's like a 3.5, 4 foot pattern. There's a structural post, and then it was wrapped in plywood. The windows are rotting, the plywood's rotting. We're proposing pulling all that out making sure that those posts are not rotting. And then going back with new windows in the same orientation. And really the only change we're making there, they did this sort of faux little flat arch to try and mimic the front of the front porch of the house, and it really is just
The little Gothic arch.
yeah, that little Gothic arch, and it's just the painted plywood coming down below the window, and it just invites spider webs. So our proposal would just be to go to a flat top and probably like a fiber cement panel instead of plywood.
So you're talking about taking that whole thing out and reinstall right to the masonry openings?
Yes, and yeah. So that was note 13 was
With the
specifically
same
to that
number
front
of
porch.
windows, like
same
the left,
yes
1, 2, 3, 4,
because there's a
5.
structural post in between each of those windows,
Okay.
and so the plan is to
So each window would be separate anyway?
yes.
And did you pick out the window yet?
We
You know, Anderson versus Pelda versus
well,
Colby?
we're actually looking at storefront, which amazingly enough has the closest profile to what's in the school and gym, frame-wise, because it's a fairly simple, and they have with operable panels within the storefront to match what's there.
And you don't have any samples of that today?
We have, I think I have a cut sheet in this package towards the end.
Okay.
The proposal would be to go to dark bronze frames, which part of that is to just try and darken the school and gym additions and recess them as, that's the Conair right there. And that's that picture up top, which is clear anodized, but that shows the operable panels inside of it. So that would be, most of the panels would look like those, where they have the double frame essentially. But in dark bronze.
Do you have any idea of color in its original 60s life?
I think this was
The white with that light, but there's no.
And so any thought of staying with the white as opposed to going to dark bronze, which is the bad 60s?
Well, dark bronze is in Conair's is it's almost black. It's
So maybe we can share some of our thinking.
Yeah.
Casey and I have been through a lot of mock-ups, a lot of color schemes, trying to reconcile the old building with the 1960s addition. And our goal is to kind of minimize the addition, to kind of make it disappear, both with landscaping and with color. And we thought that the white makes it pop too much. So we like the bronze better, but we're open to your comments.
DHR didn't comment on this?
this, and that's why I framed this conversation. Is they basically had no comments about. We submitted, and if you read through everything I put in here, which thank you if you did.
Focuses on what's considered contributing on the state
Yeah.
and national districts.
Mhm.
You guys are reviewing under your local historic district guidelines.
And of course, we're looking at commercial windows versus, those windows are kind of, you can get those in residential units, they all sell them. I don't know if we need to open that up for conversation.
I think it's appropriate that it would be the commercial, the Conair, I think is the appropriate material in terms of image and profile.
And in terms of color scheme, Anne, maybe you can page to the picture that shows both with the brown windows, just to get everyone's reactions.
Well, it's at the end of our existing photos, there are the two renderings we did. It's not of this view because the trees were all in the way, but there's one of the school.
My concern with the windows is that the commercial windows, with the residential, you have more of a shadow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was our intent. Is if you go to that photo, I believe is, or one that's
You have less
closest.
depth with the commercial windows.
that goes with our idea of trying to minimize.
Well, I know, it's one of these, it's really a subjective thing, I guess.
It 100% is.
I don't mind it so much on that building,
Okay.
but what I do mind, since we're looking at that, are the added windows on that elevation that you put, because, you have that building that's got this, the glass looks nice, all that upper glass, and then the big frame, but then you have those solids, and now you're breaking up the solids with all these little punctures in it, which kind of takes away from that whole facade, I think. I understand why you're doing it.
Okay.
You need light in there, but, that's a contention I have with that particular elevation. Any thoughts on that one?
It's what there's not. I mean, I could have gone in there and gotten those little bits, but there's not a good picture of it.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's, what's in that gym?
So it's their.
Yeah,
yeah.
Go back, we were right there. So that's what it is now. And it's getting, when you stop punching holes in the brick, it's really making that facade real busy. Are you doing the same profile with the windows, the same configuration, or is that changing as far as the grill pattern and all that?
Appear
No,
to
they
be the
won't
same
let
in the
us-
other picture, right?
Yeah.
They
So
won't let us copy.
so basically, what that if you go to the elevations, because
Asking a lot of me.
I'm sorry.
Back and forth.
You just need like 5 projectors. Well, go to the gym, which is that one.
Here.
So that's the existing. Go scroll down to the bottom of the sheet. So what we're proposing is taking that existing sort of pattern for that small and putting an awning at the bottom and doing a larger fixed pane above. These are, Richard, you asked what is going in here. So there's basically 3 apartments that face law. They're 2 stories, so we're building a new floor that within that space. It's a little over 16 feet at the eave and like 23 feet at the ridge.
So does it split right where those, in the middle where,
So basically, right to the left of that the double doors to the left. No, right.
Is it one?
It doesn't work. I was trying earlier.
Right here is one division, and that's a structure line, and then here's another one. So it's basically 2 bays, 2 bays, and 2 bays.
so how
Some
does
of
the
that is
middle
cut
one,
off.
how does the middle one get in?
Through a corridor in the middle. It is really how all the entrances are. These doors would be basically.
So those aren't entrances to the apartments?
I mean, the tenants probably will use them, but it's more to give them a terrace space. And using what was the door just to the right, the full light door that's noted 26, is the building entrance. And that there's a corridor there that runs along the north edge of the gym, and then there's a central corridor down the middle of the gym that gives access to both front and rear apartments. So there's 6 total in that gym space. And there are similar windows on the back side, but where they're in, we sort of are doing, we're flipping the living arrangement so that on the back side, the living rooms, to take advantage of all that clear story, is up, and the bedrooms are down. So where there are bedrooms, we're just putting in the small windows, and then the larger windows will match what's on the front, and those are small, like dead
Yeah,
spaces.
And I don't have so much of an issue with that facade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of tucked away in the back, you don't see it
Very
anyway,
tucked
but
away, yeah.
I don't know if you can, I don't know what you do with I know you're limited to what you can work with there, but
Yeah, it's hard. And
that elevation just gets...
well, can we go back to that elevation? Because I think
it just doesn't work.
I think it would be nice if 2 things. One, there's a little more there's a little more brick left.
Okay.
And that the windows, the new windows rely on the pattern of the existing clear-story windows. Right now, they're sort of floating by themselves. They
Okay.
overlap the mullion points of the clear story above. If you could get those lower windows to start to have a dialogue with those clear story windows so that they're aligning and that
Okay.
there's more stronger brick at the edges.
Is that-
so you get a visual?
It's
as
cut
Richard
off.
notes that the
I don't know
brick is a
what's
little
going on with
stronger.
that.
That middle one where those 4 windows are, is that
Yeah.
one unit right there?
That's one unit right there.
So would it work if you took the 2 middle windows out and sort of proportioned those end ones a little better as to what?
Yeah, I think we can.
Line them up with
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's more brick in the middle, and then the other ones, maybe the proportions, the scale of them would be a little different to kind of tie in somehow with those side entrances.
So
And I guess
Casey-
ditto for the other side of that.
Yeah, the far side that's cut off looks, instead of the
Like,
door
yeah.
and the window, it's 2 of the windows on the far
So
side.
whatever you do with
Yeah.
the left side, the
Do
right
the-
side
yeah.
can match it. And then is that 24, that door? Is that required?
24 is just a note that it's a new masonry opening, because this is the demo elevation, and if you
Right.
scroll down to the bottom of this sheet, it'll be differentiated.
So again, that door, is there any way that you could put that, is there a side to that or anything?
That door is, it's going to be hard to move but I think we can.
Is that an entrance to?
That's
get
the
to
entrance. That's the
corridor?
main building entrance. That's the accessible building entrance. That's where all the tenants are going to go in from the parking lot.
Casey, would it be possible, and this was my original thinking, to kind of mimic the windows that we have at the top, at the lower level?
And I think we had this conversation. The trick there is it becomes a pretty heavy duty header. And the structure of this gym is glue lam arches, and basically you'd be going from glue lam arch to glue lam arch and putting a new load on that. So it'd be hard, but I think we can work out something that more closely aligns, more brick, fewer windows, more aligned with the clear story above.
And on the other side, I think it's the same, the opposite elevation that we were looking at a moment ago. Kind of the same thing, to start getting a
Yeah.
pattern of the upper to the lower.
Right.
We
I
can do
think
that.
that's a great suggestion.
Yep.
So would you like us to resubmit, or?
You could resubmit, we could table this particular building to the next, to next month.
And so, because really we're talking about the gym, right? Because
Yeah,
the
this
school is separate, and
This
that's
particular one is the gym
Okay.
so far. I mean, that's
Let's go back to the school maybe? Or
Yeah, that's fine.
just
That's
stick
fine,
with the
because
gym?
really the school is the only exterior work. We talked about the front porch, all the other openings.
the thing with these openings, I think getting rid of the Gothic arches is not an issue.
Okay.
We've got the gym, that big window up there, we probably need to talk about.
Yep.
And I really would like to see, other than, showing the architectural drawings is one thing, but, these windows where there's, I don't know, what is it, 20 windows in these? One, two, three.
Which is the existing arrangement. It's 18, yeah, in the large ones up.
I would really like to see how that's going to look with commercial windows versus what's there, or maybe versus a regular awning window, that residential sort of window. And it may look fine, but it's just, you can't tell by the architectural drawings. Again, I'll tell you what bugs me about buildings, is when you get brick buildings, and they put the glass in, and it looks like it's pasted onto the building. It's just flush, has no shadow, has no depth to it.
Yeah.
And we don't want that in this building, because this building already, it has that
Yeah.
play of light and
So
shadow,
that-
and we want to sort of keep that.
Yeah, that exterior wall on the school it's a 4-inch brick veneer on a 8-inch CMU block.
Okay.
So.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So right now, the window frames, the exterior window frames were assessed about 3 inches, which is typical.
Are these windows steel?
No, they're wood. There's a steel post. You can see, like on the upper one, there's a thickened mullion, and that goes straight down. There's a little steel post that
And-
separates it, and it's
Yeah,
wood.
so I guess what would have helped maybe, and of course, we can go out there and look at it again, but, if you had a shot, okay, this is what we got. This, a up-close shot of how that window looks, and then maybe this is what we're proposing, this is the actual window.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can get it on the computer to really be realistic looking.
Yeah, we can get, if we can get a good base picture, we can get it pretty close, but we can also draw a detail section of what's there and.
Yeah, I mean, that would be
That's-
helpful, you get a detailed section of
Yeah.
what's there, and then what you're proposing is for the windows. So, and we're certainly not saying we object to anything, I just, you don't understand what my
I understand
issue
you want.
is. So if the commercial windows solve that,
Yeah.
it's just one thing I don't want to see, and this is what I told you, I just don't
I know
want-
exactly
just
what you
want
don't,
a
yeah.
window
Yeah.
that looks like it's just glued onto the building.
We don't want that either.
It does look like the existing has a little more profile.
It's got a
and-
little bit more, but it's a pretty straight profile. Yeah, I mean, the commercial is yes more square. There's a little bit of an angle to that frame, but it's pretty minimal. And
And is the glass you're proposing tinted also?
no,
Okay,
No.
so.
no, it's
Because
it
in your
says in the,
rendering, it looks, the whole thing is dark.
that's just because of that's where the computer limitations are because there's no windows there, so we just sort of have to
So you're proposing bronze
bronze frames,
frames with
clear glazed
glass.
ones. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Any more reactions on the color?
The bronze, you mean? I'd have to think, he brought up a good
I
point.
personally would rather see white
Okay.
or cream to
Or
match
maybe-
more the existing.
What color are you painting the existing building windows when, the exterior?
Off-white, creamy color.
So maybe, I think bronze is, to me, that reminds me more of commercial, but this is residential. So maybe, I wouldn't say white, but if you're doing a creamy color, maybe, and maybe, again, that would be a good thing to do next time, kind of give us
We can
Look-
give you white windows? and
yeah,
bronze
things that you would, obviously you would like, but say, here's a creamy color, here's a bronze color, here's another one, we don't really like this, we prefer not to have, something like that, but, just give us, show us, or just bring in one. Just say, this is what we want, but you see what happens, you might have someone on this committee say, well, and I think he's right, I think the bronze is just a little too commercial looking.
I personally like the bronze.
Yes, so here you go. So, so if you can show us something that better typifies, maybe it's because I'm looking at the tinted windows. So if you had something that showed us the bronze with the clear glass, we might say, okay, well, that looks okay.
Okay.
And so,
And we did renderings with all white windows, and we thought that they just popped too much and drew too much attention to the 1960s edition. And the bronze sort of makes it look distinct.
Yeah.
It fades a little bit more. Also, the landscaping in this rendering is not reflective on what we plan on doing. There'll be more here in front of the porch to actually quite tall landscaping.
That landscaping was so that you didn't see the dumpster.
Right.
Yeah.
So you will not be able to really see the gym from Rivermont at all, and you will really have to look for it to see it from Hawes.
well, you can hardly see the school on the other side. But with that said, the windows, regardless of the old building, the windows are a very prominent feature of
Yes.
these buildings.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure, even for your sake, you want to get them right.
Yes.
So it just is going to take a little looking at, I guess.
And not to muddy the waters even further, I agree with Mark. I do like the bronze color, but I can definitely see Commissioner Lipsy and Commissioner Morris's comments about the white, or maybe not a white, but more of a creamy to match maybe the what you're going to do on the house, or even the mortar and the brick. But in making this transition from something very commercial to residential, having that window configuration on the front of that school, it looks incredibly commercial to me. It always has. And I don't know if there's any other window configuration you would consider or are allowed to consider that doesn't have all those
That
lines
is a
in it.
really good question. I don't want to speak for DHR, the Park Service, on that one.
Yeah.
I think if we went to them and said, hey, we want to change these around, they would.
Because toning it
balk
down
at it.
from stark white to anything else
You know,
would be
that's a-
helpful, because that is
That's an excellent-
entirely commercial right there.
Excellent point.
And I do hope that once people are in, because I agree with you, they do look fairly commercial, but all those panels are operable.
Yes.
Every single one?
Every single one. And I hope that when tenants move in,
But you know, those won't even meet egress.
they're just big enough.
Really?
That
surprises me.
Yeah.
Get
So
a running
whether
start.
we have white or brown, this is still going to have a commercial feel, and we won't be able to get away from that. So my question is, if it comes to a very subjective judgment call, do you like brown or cream better? Who prevails? Is it the HPC, or do we get a little bit of a choice here?
Well, I think
They would both meet guidelines.
HPC is going to give you what, they're probably going to be less stringent on this than we are, because they don't consider it contributing.
HPC.
The DHR.
I mean,
HPC is you
I'm
guys.
sorry, DHR. The HPC, which is us, it's in,
My
it's,
question is you guys.
yeah, I mean, we're probably going to be more concerned with it because it's on our main drag of Rivermont, which is a very important street, so we're going to look at it.
But I think if-
We'll get in
as
the
long as
back
it meets
room
our
and fight it
guidelines.
out before you come in.
No, if either color meets the guidelines, it's gonna be up to them,
Exactly.
because I can approve paint colors administratively, and I'm
Yeah.
bound to the guidelines.
But
So-
I'm thinking, I'm wondering if the windows that you're putting on the left, continue those, with the single window with the awning below it, would look a heck of a lot better than all these multiple ones. I don't know what the DHR.
I think Casey is correct, that DHR will start to
Raise
balk at
eyebrows.
that.
Do they really care, though? I mean, if,
They do.
I think.
that's a question you can ask her.
Yeah, I will ask her. I mean, but I like that's honestly putting together an application and going back.
We have all
You
of
have
our
to do an
approvals
amendment.
and
Amendment,
Because,
Whatever we
it's-
want to be designed at this stage.
But it seems to me that they're looking at this building almost as if you, putting a new building on here, and what they want to do is just differentiate it
Almost.
from the existing building.
We were talking about this earlier today. Is like it's almost like you're putting a new building, but it's there,
Right.
And they're reacting to what's there.
So the question is, are they going to say, well, yeah, we want it exactly the way it is now? Or
I mean, they
or do you
still
have a little
review.
bit of leniency?
They still review
They
it,
still
and I
review
think
it.
if we went in and said we're changing these window patterns, I would venture to guess that it would be a significant issue.
And if you've already gotten approval. I
We've already got
I wouldn't-
approval. Yeah.
Oh, you already got the approval.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
we
part
we have both. We have the approval with a handful of conditions, which was submitted with the application from DHR, and we got approval at the end of last week from the Park Service with 2 additional very minor conditions. One of which we talked about earlier, that rear entrance.
Well, of course, the bronze trim it would lessen that.
It would.
I think if you see the picture side by side, you will see that.
You don't have a
really-
rendering of this one, do you?
We
No.
didn't do this one,
We
but
didn't
we can.
include it in the application. but-
Casey, did your part 2 say bronze? Did your part 2 say bronze? Did DHR?
I think we said darker.
Yeah.
We said not white and darker frames.
Darker.
I think we left
Cream
it.
is darker.
Well, I think we said dark, or it's in here somewhere.
All right.
But the standard of review for DHR and the Park Service, as you all know, for additions that are out of the period is just compatibility.
Right.
So,
Either would be, just like the guidelines, color-wise, either is compatible.
It's just FYI, note 23, you're replacing a roof with a casement window.
Yeah, that was one of the other questions.
That is,
Just a typo.
that's, yes, there's always.
Copy and paste always bites you.
The existing asphalt shingle roof we're talking about there is on the outbuilding at the rear of the gym, and we're planning on replacing it with new asphalt.
Where's that one? Which one is that?
23 is on
Oh,
there's
okay.
the old garage.
But we're
behind
back
the gym.
to,
Where are we?
So what other changes are there on the school or the gym?
You know, it's sort of the same along the color lines. The drainage on the school is it's a flat roof that's hidden with exposed scupper boxes and rain leaders. We'd like to replace those and match the windows.
And you're also replacing the roof on the gym with a metal seam.
Yeah, so the school, that's really it in terms of exterior.
Okay.
There's one door on the parking lot side that we're replacing with a window.
all right, so we'll have to have
And then the school, yeah, it's a white TPO membrane roof right now that is hideous. And we're planning on replacing that with a standing seam metal roof.
Color?
I think it's in the package. Did I say slate gray?
yeah.
I think is what we decided. And
You're
we
talking
would
about
paint
the gym.
The gym.
The gym, okay.
And we would paint the rear porch roofs on the house because that'll be painted metal. Those two roof colors will be coordinated.
Right there.
So
We're
right, yeah.
echoing the slate roof on the gym and
Yeah.
the little porch.
Okay.
And again, drainage. There's a linear gutter there on the gym with downspouts, and those just the colors
Match.
to match match the windows.
All right.
Your part 2 actually doesn't say
It doesn't say. I
on doors and windows, number section 19.
you know what? I wrote that report a while ago, and I probably hadn't really thought about colors at that point. They tend to, as long as it's not lime green, not worry too much.
It's reversible.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, is there anything else on that? I don't think so. You need to make a motion on the school before we talk about the
All right.
gym.
So I guess we're going to table the school and the gym based on.
So, is there a way? It sounds like, from what I've heard on the conversation, that you all are okay with us replacing the windows. It's just a
Yes.
question with what. Would it be possible to get approval for removing what's there? So, mostly just because there is some exposed structure that we want to.
Are these windows that bad that they're not even salvageable?
There are numbers of them. You know, maybe on those 18, the upper 3 are okay, but the lower 6 are pretty rough. The gym entry, the school entry there to the left is in pretty rough shape.
So they're all wooden inside and out, right?
They're all wooden, yeah, single pane.
So you're just about letting construction continue?
That's really where,
Yeah.
like we will have the conversations about what was
So you
going
want-
back, and I'll go and document what's there, take measurements with the tape measure, get it all drawn up
All right,
before
you want
they.
this for the school and the gym?
That would be both, yeah, ideally
right.
for both the school and the gym.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. I move, what?
Tough one.
I move that we approve the replacement of the windows for the school and the gymnasium. And that they can be removed. Period. as far as the replacement windows are concerned, there are more details, as discussed at this meeting, that we would like to table for next month's meeting. That
That sounds.
Suits
And
you?
we're also going to come back to you with redesign of the windows on the gym.
The proposed new windows on the gym.
Yes, well, yeah.
The configuration.
Okay, let me just add to that then. So, we also are going to come back with a new proposed, same thing, is it? A proposed design for the street side elevation. Are we also doing the other one? Or is that okay?
Street side.
Just the street side. Street
I thought
side
it was
elevation. Someone mentioned the other
Yeah.
side.
Commissioner Lipsy, I thought it was both sides of the
Both sides, because the
building.
other side has a similar discordance between the upper and lower.
Okay, so a new proposed elevation for the gym, what would that be, east and west elevation?
Yeah, that's what we're calling them, east and west.
East and west elevation for new window cutouts.
So you're approving the replacement of the windows,
Yep,
and we're going to
but we're
table
not
the discussion.
approving, we're not
for-
approving the placement.
Of the new windows.
Right,
Right.
And colors.
right. Just, it's
And
Or,
that
important.
the-
will-
or what the replacement windows are.
So and we'll table that for.
There's a little bit of risk that you guys are taking on, that you don't know what they're going to approve.
I think
To go
we're,
back.
we'll
Okay.
have a conversation. We just want the ability to move
Start
forward if
approving. Okay.
necessary. It doesn't necessarily mean that you guys
They
can go
probably
there
also
tomorrow on the
need
windows.
approval on the roof material, so they can do
I-
that too.
yeah.
Oh, and we, continuing my approval thing, we approved well, I guess we're approving everything else, all the membrane roofs,
Okay.
Metal roofs.
gutters, downspouts, et cetera. So everything else from item 13 to, what was the last one, 25?
I think there's at least 26.
And
I
is
think
it
the
just
only
the
thing in
windows,
question,
or is
though,
it the
there was
doors as
color.
well?
Actually goes
that
all
you
color
the
cut
way
match
back?
the
to
windows.
30.
Oh,
That's their, their limitation is the color. The membrane roofs you don't have a problem with,
right.
but the standing seam, if it's to match windows and
Well,
downspouts.
I think
the
the roof
standing
was gonna match
seam
the
roof
slate.
is, I
That's
believe
right.
I
Was
put a
gray.
color at
That's
the
right,
end.
so it's fine.
So it'd
Slate
be
gray
good.
is
Slate
what I
gray,
heard.
which is a,
So we'll approve the roof material and color.
Got all that, Ann?
We're going to approve everything as submitted, but we're tabling the discussion on the windows until next meeting.
I think so.
Nice and simple. Thank you.
What she said.
Yeah, that's what we should have said to begin with. Maybe should we redo that?
Have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Any questions from you all? Clear, good, marching orders?
pretty clear.
Excellent.
Thank you. I didn't like the gym windows either.
All those in
So
favor?
I'm happy to take a second look.
None opposed? We're good with the motion as submitted. So we're off and running for you all.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
well-
you. Appreciate your working with us on that.
Oh, it's been great. I'm glad we didn't keep you here too late.
Not at all. Let's see,
I think it would take
The
one.
next meeting is August 20th.
next
I need
meeting,
every-
yeah.
I need everything back by August 10th to get it to these guys.
All right, we will work on that.
Excellent. And I don't believe we have any new business other than, again, to welcome Commissioner Lipsy to the fold.
Bring out the wine.
The meeting is adjourned.
Is that what this is?
Yeah.